So this session in the creative, in the full spectrum meditation series is about psychological meditation. And so the first in the series was on awareness practice, using just observing awareness. And then the second in the series was really making sure that we observe awareness in the body. Mindfulness is actually, if you look back at the ancient texts from India and Tibet, mindfulness is awareness of the body, in the body. And so that was really like one topic, but we spent 2 sessions on that. And then the third session was on relational practice, or you could say prayer. So the first 2 sessions on awareness practice were about leaning into the non-dual, leaning into the place where everything is one. Actually, the first stage in that process, not everything isn't one, because in everyday mindfulness, you need an observer. When you're learning mindfulness, you have an observer. So you're watching the present moment, but there's an observer watching the present moment. But the more advanced level, the observer disappears, and then there is just oneness. But then the second type of meditation that we talked about was this relational practice, or you could say prayer, where you intentionally want a sense of self and others, self and higher power, self and God, self and Buddha, self and archetypal forms, because it's something really human to want to talk to someone else or to a higher power. It's really powerful, even if you're advanced in just the awareness practice, the non-dual practice, actually being able to project into the sky or imagine in the sky or see in the sky your favorite Buddha, your favorite saint, your favorite archetypal form is really powerful. Then you can open your heart and you can say, please help me. And, within Tibetan Buddhism, they'd say that you're in the non-dual state, that the nature of mind, we are source, you could say. Source is everywhere, we are source. And then because of the creativity of imagination, of infinite possibility, out of that spaciousness of source, I make all sorts of stuff up. All the complicated stuff in the world is all being made up by the creativity of human imagination. But I can project into the sky in front of me a God, a Buddha, an archetypal form to pray to. And then it's really emotionally powerful to pray to it. And then at the end of the session, I can fold that all back into myself and just become one with everything again. That's the ideal, of course. It's a great way to practice, because you don't get too fixed with your visualization of the higher power. And in fact, in some traditions, you actually look at, if there are images used in the tradition of the higher power, they use mirrors. You look at the image in a mirror to remind you it's just a reflection. It's not the moon itself. It's not the moon itself, it's the finger pointing at the moon, or it's the reflection of the moon in the water. So, so last week you talked about praying to that higher power, receiving blessings, receiving grace from that higher power. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Because if I say, source is in every cell of my body. If I say that to myself cognitively, that every point of awareness is source, it's quite hard to receive a blessing from that sense of source or empowerment. But if I imagine source as a mystical, energy in the sky, whether abstract or in some sort of anthropomorphic form, then I can sort of imagine myself receiving the blessing from that higher power. It's sort of somehow easier to imagine myself separate to receive a blessing than just to feel myself a part of it. I mean, the ultimate, the mystics and the great masters, the enlightened beings, they can feel the evolutionary healing energy of source all the time. So the blessing is a continuous blessing, if you like. But for us mortals, it's sometimes, actually they're mortals as well, but for us regular human beings, It can be, for me, it can be great to imagine light coming into my body from the visual image of a higher power, and to feel that in my body as well. And of course, Milton Erickson, the great sort of, psychotherapist of the 20th century who brought hypnosis and trance and the unconscious mind into the 20th century, would really be happy with the infinite possibility that we can have. There's one meditation that I've done where you imagine you go around feeling all the energy of the universe that is alive, and then it showers down onto your body as a shower of energy. You feel it entering your body, and it's called a long life practice. You imagine all the life force of the universe showering your body. So there's lots of really wonderful things that we can do with that relational practice. But the basic idea of being able to put an intention out into the universe, requesting something of the universe, is just, and being able to dialogue with higher power. Hey, higher power, I'm about to do a workshop with, I did one a few years ago in China with like 5,000 people in a conference room in China. And, and I was just like, I'm not used to 5,000 people. So I was sitting there just saying, hey, this isn't my gig, this is your gig, higher power. Higher power, if you want something to happen here, you better deliver, because I can't deliver this. You can deliver this, so you can have those sorts of conversations, and then just seek to act as a vehicle, a communication mechanism, a channel for, cosmic energy, or, the Tao, or the Holy Spirit, or whatever you want to call it. You can call it, the movement of energy in the universe. So that was really the first 3 sessions, of which there were 2 key topics. The first key topic was awareness practice in the body, and the second was praying in a dualistic way, but nevertheless a really powerful way. And so this session is the sort of, what I consider to be the third form of meditation, is psychological meditation practice. And we're going to sort of loosely use the model from Creative Mind. Although I'm not going to go through all the 7 steps in a precise way with you, but I will send you some links to the video series, a series of Zooms that I did on Creative Mind. So if you want to look at those videos in more detail, you can. But really, my emphasis today is not so much to go through each of the individual steps, but just to do it in a way that you can get and remember. And then if you think that's great, then you can study it in more detail. I'll make the link available at the end of the session. In fact, what I'm going to do is see if I've got it here. Let me just look. Hang on. I'm going to just put a link into the chat, which if you look at chat, there are 3 dots at the bottom of the chat. And if you click on that, you make sure that you save the chat, and then it creates a file on your computer after the session. So then you've got the link for later. Most people have it set up. It looks like Sally hasn't got it set up.
What do I need to do, Julian?
Are there 3 dots in the?
Yeah, it says copy. It says copy, the 3 dots.
So just click on the 3 dots.
Okay, and then click copy, yeah?
No, click save.
No, it's just saying copy.
Okay, copy's good.
Okay, I'll just copy the link. Thank you.
Okay, great, fantastic, good. Maybe because I've turned chat off, because when I lead a meditation,
sure,
suddenly people start sending messages. I find it very distracting when I'm leading a meditation. So I'm just tuning in. So today we'll do a psychological meditation practice. Next week, we'll do all three practices in a single session. And the week after, we'll do the short and dirty, the short and sweet meditation practice, so that you know that you can do all of this in a few minutes. So psychological meditation, let's talk about what I mean by that. If you're with awareness practice, you're actually opening to your sense of being the universe. You're going through a portal where if you're really in the present moment, you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future, you're only in the present moment. But so much of our lives are constructed on the journey of, who we are from where we've come from and all the stuff that we've got and going to the future. We're so constructed in time. But when you do mindfulness, you begin to go through a portal that takes you into another dimension that is beyond time and is beyond ego as well. Because it's beyond time, it's beyond ego, because the ego is a story about past, present, and future, and your journey on all of those three. But psychological meditation actually says, well, actually, I need a healthy ego. I've got to go to work. I've got to talk to my partner. It's all very well. My joke is everything is one, but I need to know the difference between my bank account and your bank account. Or the more saucy version of that is everything is one, but I need to know whose ass I'm scratching. It's important to have a good sense of personal identity, isn't it? to be a healthy individual in the world, to know your boundaries. And so there's a saying I think it's from the Theosophists, which was, to lose yourself is all the way to God. To find yourself is half the way to God. To lose yourself and all the way is trod. So that's a description of the journey that I take people on, because actually finding yourself, knowing your boundaries, knowing what your rights are, knowing that you can say no, knowing that you can love, knowing that you can play, having outcomes, being able to achieve stuff in the world, that's really important. And then once you've got a healthy ego, or some degree of a healthy ego, then you can say, actually, let me go beyond this concrete self that I have. So psychological meditation is mainly focused on, there's something I want and I need the psychological resources to support me having it. And also it can be about, as a daily practice, it's about, I have a body, how am I feeling today in my body? What's happening in this being that is me? What's happening, having a sense of myself as a whole. If soul is body, emotion, spirit, and mind, most of us have got too much mind anyway. So body is particularly body, emotion, and spirit. So to feel into that every day, check into yourself as a whole being, as a soulful person, as a complete being, and check out what's going on. And if there's something that's not quite right, either you've got a feeling that's there that you haven't properly addressed, something happened and you haven't addressed it, or something's come up for you, to really take time to address that. So it could be something happened yesterday, or something from the past, or you're lonely, or whatever it is, that some feeling that's there that needs attending to. Or, alternatively, you've got something happening later in the day or tomorrow that is stressing you out, and you need more psychological resources to support you in that. You're nervous about something, or you're anxious about something. So, I'll just give you an outline of what we'll do. So the first step always for body-mind meditation, you could call it the generative state or the creative mind state, is to get body, emotion, mind, and spirit all lined up with each other. That's the first step. If you only work with your intellect, then you're only talking to your intellect, which is a small part of you. So you want body, emotion, and spirit aligned as well. So we have a method, and it could be a meditation technique or a movement technique, or remembering a time and place where you were really connected with yourself and life. So that's the first step. And then the second step is to have an intention. And Steve Gilligan, whose creative mind model I think is great, says that it's great to have an intention that is more than just an intellectual intention or goal, So it's great to be able to reduce it to 5 words or less. So you might say it's a feeling of what you want that you've put into a few words. Something that resonates with your body, that resonates with your heart. Probably if you come up with that intention, once you've got the generative state, it will probably be one that resonates. So first is generative state, body-mind connected state. Second is intention. There may even be a step before the intention, which is, let me check myself out. How am I today? Or perhaps you could say the intention is to align myself in my meditation today. Let me check out what's happening. And then after that, you might say, well, now that I've done my diagnosis, now I've checked myself out today. Actually, I've got some intention for some healing or some action that I need to take. So of course, these steps may not be all completely in order. So really, as a daily practice, I'd recommend you have, the generative state, and you check yourself out, and then you notice what's going on. And then perhaps your intention is to apply resources, to bring resources to bear, psychological resources to bear. And if there's emotional difficulty, to bring the psychological resources to bear in the area of the emotional difficulty, either about, something that's happened to you. Oh, I need to give myself a cuddle. I need to parent myself. I need to mentor myself. I need to remember that this childhood wound that's been triggered was something I inherited from my parents or my grandparents, and that isn't really about me at all. I was talking to someone this morning. She has anxiety all the time, and it's before she was 1 year old. It's inherited from her mother's body, and what was happening in her mother's life. It's not really to do with her personally at all. And so, so finding out what's going on and then bringing resources to bear, the wise adult mind, the warm, tender heart, your mentors, the people who believe in you and support you. And of course, you could include higher power as well. Higher power, spiritual resources can work at the psychological, can support you in your psychological, individuated life. So sometimes we reach out to higher power to be more at one with the universe, but we can also reach out to higher power to help us be more at one with ourselves in our skin encapsulated egos. So accessing the psychological resources to support us with whatever's going on in ourselves. And it's quite good not to say transform the difficulty, because the difficulty may have a message. There's maybe an intention there. Week after next, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to say, what's my woundedness today? What's my hurt today? What's my difficulty today? What's my longing? What does that woundedness, what does that emotion long for? And then what's the action I'm going to take about that? So it's not necessarily that we want to transform difficult emotions, but we want to get what it is those difficult emotions are longing for. What are they telling me? What's the message? And this is really deep stuff, by the way. Some of Milton Erickson's students said that we try to avoid our difficult feelings. We try to be the hero, and that actually what we're trying to make happen in our lives is the problem. So the solution is the problem. The fact that you want to be a superhero can be a problem, but you can also say it the other way around, that the difficult feeling, the woundedness, the obstacle is the solution. That for you to be whole, it isn't a matter of conquering your difficult feelings, but finding out what it is that your difficult feelings are telling you about, and finding a way to accommodate those needs that you have that are currently not being accommodated in your life. But we're so trained from an intellectual, cognitive point of view to have a very strong self-image of the self-sufficient, independent, successful person that we should be, but that we're often not very good at including our vulnerability, including our emotional difficulty, including our longing for love, longing, for intimacy, longing for authentic communication, longing to be seen for who we are, all those basic needs. And so this sort of, as a part of a meditation practice, it's this sort of psychological meditation as a daily meditation is about, is there any bit of me that I'm missing today that I'm not paying attention to? And how do I include that so I'm not fighting with myself today? So that's sort of really the sort of purpose. And then, the final step is, so you mentor yourself, you sponsor yourself, perhaps you parent yourself. You can be the really positive parent. You're really sweet and kind with that difficulty, and you bring your adult mind to bear, and you ask yourself, what do I need? What does this place in me need? What do I need? What can I do about this? What, is it just applying resources, or is there some action to take today? Talk to a friend, go and sort something out with my, life partner or my business partner. What is there some action that needs to happen? And then sometimes if you're working on something, you may need to repeat the whole process again the next day. It's not just a one day wonder. So then you have this sort of beautiful practice, which, starts with, let me just open to awareness, to the sense of connection with the universe. Let me pray that my life is good, the relational practice. And then let me bring all of this to my own body today, my emotions today. And let me bring my wise adult mind and my warm, tender heart to just investigate, be curious about, explore anything that's happening in my emotional life that is painful, on the assumption that there's a message. The problem is the solution. There's some message, something that I'm not including in my life. And of course, it may not be, you may be so habituated to, whatever it is in your life that you're unable to, you may not be able to include it today, but you may be able to support yourself today. We have to be super patient, because everybody in the modern world, let's say it this way, has had non-ideal parenting as children. We weren't, that process of slow separation, we're an egg in the mother's womb, and we're one with the mother. And then we were born, and ideally, right from the word go, we still feel one with the mother, because if we cry, we get milk, or we get our nappy change, or we get cuddled. It still feels like we're one. And then we say, well, ooh, as a baby, maybe I am separate, but it's magical. If I want milk, I can get milk. If I need my nappy change, she's there. So it still feels like you have a lot of control. And then slowly, there's a process of separation. And of course, if you think you and your mother are one, and then, your mother disappears, she goes for a walk, she goes to the shop, she goes to the office, or she's not ill, or she's in hospital, and she doesn't exist, because that's the way the baby will experience it, then you don't exist. If you're one and half of it doesn't exist, then you don't exist. So we can fall, as babies, we can fall into these abysses. And, if it's mild, it may just be disturbing at the moment. So there are two ways that this can happen. It can be sort of truly single event traumas, or it can be multiple small events that add up to a big trauma over time. You know, you're constantly abandoned, or you're constantly not recognized, or you're constantly not seen. And so then out of that, we find, you know, we're quite resourceful. We adapt, we compensate for those early experiences, and we shape ourselves in a particular way that gets us out of childhood's dark abyss, to quote a poet. But then we're slightly warped. We've cut off part of ourselves. You know, we've given up. As a kid, I gave up my need for love as a child. I had to learn to be more open to love as an adult. You know, there are ways that we've become sort of warped, if you like, because of what we had to do to compensate for the inadequate development processes of our childhood. And so you have to be really patient. If you're dealing with a core pattern, it may take quite a long time to heal that, and you may need external support. You may need more than just doing a meditation on your own. I'm just saying that as a sort of, and I believe, can I say, that in the initiation that humanity is going through at this time with globalization, the political issues of the world, the loss of ethics, the making up of truth, and also climate change. We're going through some initiation which could all go terribly wrong, but perhaps we can get through it. And a key part of that is that we need to become whole again. Some of us, enough of us, need to become whole again. And the journey of being connected with myself and being able to align with myself and being able to align with life is really important for this initiation. So, you know, I am not, just to talk about being aligned with life, I'm not separate from nature. I'm not separate from the other people in the world at all. You know, if we burn up the oxygen, we'll all die. You know, we're one. But so on the one hand, I need to heal this person called Julian, and on the other hand, I need to feel connected to everything. So at the psychological level, you know, my daily practice includes, you know, finding out, how is this person called Julian doing? What's happening in my body? What are my feelings? What support do I need from my inner resources? How do I bring that support to myself? How do I hold myself well today? So that's what we're going to do as the meditation, and you've got the link if you want to go into this topic in more depth. But any questions before we go into the meditation? Great, okay. So again, some people like to turn their cameras off for the meditation, but it's great for me if some people leave their cameras on, because I respond to the non-verbal, you know, I respond to what I see. And also some people prefer to do these body-mind meditations moving. And in fact, the creative mind model and also the generative change model really likes to use the sort of body meditation, because the neuroscience says that the right brain is what experiences the world. The left brain makes maps of that experience, and the right brain is really deeply connected in the body. So to have the deeper part of ourselves in the meditation, movement is really a helpful thing. But I often do my meditation sitting, because I come from a sitting meditation tradition. So you can do it either way, but just encouraging those people who want to move if they do. And just reminding you of movement, one of the ways of really being in your body is to make very, very infinitesimally small movements, just to feel into an infinitesimally small movement. And then also, if my eyes are open, I look at my hand, I can see the shape of my hand. But if I close my eyes, can you try and feel from the inside what it feels like? Because it may not, the feeling may not have the shape that it looks like. The feeling on the inside may feel quite different. So there's something about really coming into the body and experiencing the body the way the body experiences itself, rather than the cognitive mind. And those very small movements, even just toes or feet or arms, are really great ways to tune in to yourself. And I just love this first part of the journey of settling down into myself, relaxing, noticing what I see, hear, and feel. And I think most of you have a method that you know to take yourself in. And so I'd like you to use the best method you have. It could be remembering a time when you were deeply connected. Or it could be paying attention to everything you see, everything you hear, everything you feel. For some people, it's really helpful to watch their internal dialogue, to take some distance from the voice in your head and observe it from a distance, because it's only one of the things you can hear. So even if it's noisy, you can let that voice be noisy, but you can be quiet. There's a space in you that's bigger than your internal dialogue. It's the space that will observe it, that can observe it. And one way of paying attention to the space that can observe your internal dialogue is to listen for other things. I can hear ringing in my ears. I can hear my breathing. What can you hear? You know, in the room, in the house, outside the house, in your body. So if you're listening to all of that, and your internal dialogue is only one of those sound sources, there's something much bigger than that inner voice. And some people really like to just feel their way up from their feet, feel the groundedness from their feet, up through their bodies. Or pay attention to the center that's beneath the navel, sort of grounding themselves. For other people, the heart, the center of the chest, is where stillness lies. And one of the secrets of doing this is to welcome every part of your experience. So you just welcome everything that you're experiencing, whether it supports you, whether it's an obvious support for your meditation, whether it seems like a distraction. If you can allow and welcome what seem like the distractions, you can meditate anywhere on a bus or in an airport. The key thing is not to follow a thought. If you have a thought about work or what you're doing later, or to just say, here the thought is, and then just let it float away like a cloud rather than following that thought. And just to enjoy, I keep bringing my attention to different portions of my experience. My breathing. And my intention today is to check out how I'm doing and be at peace with myself. I invite you to have an intention like that for this meditation. And then just to feel into your body. Is there anywhere that needs attention in your body? Is there an emotion or a feeling? And if it's a big emotion or feeling, you don't just take a taste of it to start with. Just know enough. You don't want to get swamped with it. You want to be able to stay in a sort of open meditation state. And then you say, what psychological resources do I need to support myself today? Some of you are quite experienced in this, others are new to this. You can think of people who believe in you, a person who believes in you, or really cares about you, or even loves you, and see them. Who would support you in how you're feeling today? And then you can see their face, seeing you, believing in you, caring about you. And you can feel how that feels, receiving that care. And you can hear the words that they would say to you. And this could be a friend currently in your life or from the past, or one of your teachers or guides. It could be an archetypal form as well. It could be a saint or a Buddha or a great figure. And the more you do this sort of meditation, the more figures like this you can have. I call this the circle of supporters. So if you've got one, that's great. Maybe another will appear and feel, but there's no hurry. The audios from this meditation will be available. You can listen to this again. But over a period of time, you might see, feel, and hear the words from a number of different psychological resources to yourself. Really good friends who believe in you. They know your difficulty, yet they still believe in you. Archetypal forces who believe in your life. Perhaps a teacher or your first boss who just was there for you, believed in you. Or a pet from your adult life or from your childhood. I can see the family cat right now looking at me with just full acceptance and love. Or I can imagine a place in nature where I feel really supported and at peace with life and myself. Or I can imagine someone I know about but have never met. Virginia Satir, who said we all need 12 hugs a day. Or a Buddha who would hold me in her arms. Or I'm learning to be really kind and sweet with myself. And I know someone who's really kind and sweet and can teach me how to do that. And so with this person, with these people or resources, I can bring all of the good feelings to my heart. And I can also remember my wise adult mind, the adult me that has lots of agency in the world, lots of ability, lots of experience. So I can have my wise adult mind and this warmth in my heart, all of this support. And I can bring this to any place in my body, in my emotional life that needs support, that needs love, that needs healing, that needs care, that needs listening to. My heart can be curious. What is this place in my body telling me? What does it need? What does it want? You could talk to this place in yourself. Say, hey, you're sweet. You deserve love. Or whatever it is, you're good enough. You don't have to try so hard. There are people who see you, whatever it is it needs. Or you can, if that part of you says, there's something I need, then you can say, oh, let me think about how we can arrange that for you today. Who can you call? Who can you speak to? Who can support you out there in the real, the external world? So there's really two parts. One is, what can I and the psychological resources and spiritual resources bring to this place in myself today? How can I hold this place, allow it with sweetness? By the way, you're not trying to change the feeling, even if it's difficult. You're a mystery. You're not a problem. You're a mystery that's unfolding. If there's a feeling and the feeling doesn't change, it's because there's a message, a communication that hasn't been seen and heard fully yet. So just being at peace with it, being sweet with it, being kind, being super patient. Building a relationship with it. Perhaps you become the parent or the best friend, the mentor of this place in yourself. Or the guide. Then you might say, I know what you need. Let's call a friend. Let's see a friend, or let's spend time in nature, or let's go back to bed, or let's have a long bath, or let's go and sort out the finances. Once we've done that, we'll both feel a lot better. So out of the meditation may come a call to action. And it may be that all you need to do is to do this connecting with yourself, relating with yourself, bringing resources to yourself on this topic just today. Or it may be that this is something to come back to very regularly, perhaps every day over a period of time. And it can really be great to come and be with ourselves in this way, for even just a few minutes every day, to make a habit of it. to come and be with our emotional selves every day and just make sure we're aligned in ourselves, in our bodies. But of course, with the awareness practice and the relational practice, the prayer practice, we can align with ourselves and with life. So invite those inner resources to be with you that will support you in the rest of your day. Feel them in your heart, feel them in your belly. See them, feel them. And I like to imagine myself, the adult me, taking care of the younger me, holding my own hand. When you're ready, slowly stay deeply connected in yourself, but begin to also be aware of the room, Zoom space, the people on the screen, and turn your videos on if you have them turned off. Welcome back. Welcome back. So, how was that for you? What was that like? Who was that?
Beautiful to be held, beautiful to be held just as is, and to
By the
be
group, by your small group.
yeah,
Great.
and beautiful to be in your presence, Julian. Thank you.
Good. Thank you.
It's just comforting, you know. It's like being wrapped in a warm and cozy blanket in a cold night, and that is so beautiful.
Great.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. I can put that. I'll put that on my website.
Yes, please.
Like being wrapped in a warm blanket.
In a cold winter night. Yeah.
In a cold winter night. Yeah. Great. What else? What did you get from the meditation? What else?
Remembering to slow down, remembering to be kind to ourselves. Sometimes we tend to kick ourselves for not doing enough or being enough or getting things moved around enough. But then it is okay. It is okay to take care of ourselves and to go slow, to take it easy.
Yeah. That's why the awareness practice element is so important, because when you do that, you're not defined by the past or the future. You're just this moment. And that's why we need to it's really great to do that every day, especially if you're driven, to do more. You know that as a mother, Jahan. So just taking time for this being, this miraculous being, is a wonderful thing. Who else has got something to share from the meditation? I don't mind sitting quietly. So just to be able to, where some people get like anxious when nobody speaks, but I don't, because and the reason why I mention that is that somebody comes in. One time, some guy came in and said something really like trivial just to fill the space, and he got embarrassed and never came back, which was sad. So we can just sit. But have you got a question? Have you got something to share? How was it for you? Does it make sense? Yeah. Or was there something in your heart you want to share?
For me, it has been very sweet, like a kind of a tenderness, but also go back to the basics, go back home, but go back home to go back to the essential.
Yes. Yeah, that's
and
great.
and also that's it was connecting also with the resources of courage and focus, concentration, to then go out of this cocoon of this commodity and take the right path.
Yeah. The thing about sweetness, it's so most people are not kind enough to themselves. We've all been pushed too much, you know, in particularly by the education system, by our parents. We think we have to do more. And that just sweetness of just saying, oh, it's okay to be the way I am. Just bringing that is healing. That's a healing thing in itself. And one of the things is that, you know, you may have read all the psychology and therapy books and been to all the classes, but just because you have the answer in your cognitive mind doesn't mean you have it in your heart or your guts. That's harder to do. We're not taught how to do that. So we just have to be sweet. And the basic method is tenderness, you know, just being really, keep bringing that sweetness to ourselves. Thank you, Celine.
I was going to say, for me, it was powerful because it helped me connect to a feeling that I've been avoided. And there's a side of me that can go into quite an addictive pattern to avoid some of my feelings. So it was a really nice way. I mean, there's big stuff going on in my life, so it's not like the feeling's going to go away, but just to connect with it and acknowledge it. And
yeah,
really powerful, because I for the last day I've been running away from it, that feeling.
Yes. It actually really improves things when, if you've got a difficult feeling in your body and you know, and you actually just come close to it and acknowledge it and welcome it, immediately it just feels a bit easier.
Yeah.
And so you know, that just welcoming it changes one's relationship with it rather than pushing it away. So that's really a beautiful thing, you know. So yeah, thank you. That's really, really great. Thank you. Just to talk about something, I was actually talking to someone today who he's alcoholic, you know, and I said, well, what happens? She said, you know, because she said, I drink in the morning. She gets out of bed, she has a drink. I said, what happens? How come you need a drink as soon as you wake up in the morning? And she said, I feel so much anxiety. And then I have a drink and that helps. I said, well, then the drink is, you know, at one level, the drink is medicine. It may not be a very good medicine, may not be the best medicine. It may damage her health long term. It may have other impact. She's taking it to deal with the feeling. Well, so when she comes, so the question then over time would be, how can I start coming closer to holding that feeling, bringing tenderness and feeling in a way that work, you know, find a medicine that works better than alcohol. So yeah, but as you say, just being able to be, Sally, just to be, you know, just to welcome the feeling makes a big difference. So that's, yeah, it's great, really, really great. I will sometimes go online with one of my coaches and I'll just be supported in someone helping me stay with the feeling. And, you know, I stay with the feeling, stay with it, stay with it, stay with it. I want to run away, but I stay with it, stay with it, stay with it, stay with it, stay with it. It's very helpful to have another person help you do that, because it can be hard to do it on your own sometimes. And then then at the end of the session, all I've done is stay with it, and I've had some sponsorships and tenderness from the other person. And then suddenly the feeling feels different because it's been seen, it's been acknowledged. I haven't tried to make any changes other than give it some attention. So good. What else? What else? What other questions or sharings? Lyndon.
I'd like, it's a question really, about how to deal with, if you like, having become disengaged from meditating. One of the things that I'm really getting from this course is to actually re-engage in a very simple way with meditation after having been, for all sorts of reasons, gone far too deep or complicated into things into rather an egotistical way. And I used to do meditation alongside of a lot of yoga, which I've stopped for some reasons. But the fact is, sometimes I do wake up and I'm very conscious in the mornings, but then I sort of avoid and sort of slob out. And I'm very aware after this session of how important it is to recognize these emotions and listen and talk to yourself. So are there ways of getting started and moving yourself? If maybe pass yourself off by something
I
you
think
said
your line
about
is bad.
how when you were younger you cut yourself off from love.
Yeah.
Am I breaking up?
I think it's you that's breaking up rather than me, but I may be wrong.
Quite possibly. I do have sometimes problems.
But one of the things that we can do is bring attention. So first is keep the session short, and then then make them pleasurable, enjoyable. Make them as simple as possible. And one of the things you can do is just say, I'm going to bring some attention to my wish to slob out. Let me meditate on the feeling of slobbing out.
Or just
all exercise.
Yeah.
I just want to do nothing. I want to look at Facebook and do nothing at all. Well, bring awareness, bring love and tenderness and curiosity to that, resources to that. Or meditate in the bath, or meditate lying down in bed. Try different things. Roll around on the floor. Go for a walk in the woods. Find a way of bringing your attention to whatever's going on. So that slobbing out feeling, maybe there's some depression in there. Maybe there's something that's not working in your life that you haven't attended to, and it's coming up as a sort of mildly depressed type of feeling. Something to it. You need to get rid of your husband or something.
Ways and means.
He's not sitting next to you, is he? I hope not. Anyway. But there may be something that's like a feature of your life, which it might be you work too hard, or you haven't given, or you give too much time to your children, or you don't give you enough space, or you don't get out enough. There may be something that's like a long-term habit.
Yes.
Makes you just think, what's the point? Or something to do with aging. I was talking to someone today who, like, what's the point? She's single and she's in her 50s. She's saying, what's the point? So then, like, actually, let me bring loving attention to that. Let me bring compassion to that. Let me hold that.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Sure. But I also think simplifying things can be really great. Like, I'm just going to sit on a cushion for 5 minutes. And I'm going to do it in the simplest way I can find. Just check myself out. How am I doing today? It's better to have a 5-minute meditation practice that you do 6 days a week than it is to have an hour and a half meditation practice you do once a month. Thank you, Lyndon.
Thank you.
Who else? What else? Oh, you had your hand up, Paul, didn't you?
Yeah, I hesitate because I'm not trying to promote a particular school of psychology, etc. But when it comes to the psychological and the non-dualistic, I realize that I'm thinking of Jung's concept of psyche, and what helped me at some point was his idea of individuation, but practically it was that ego and the self, and an inner awareness that my immediate I-ness has a deeper hinterland and horizon, that with a deeper integrated consciousness, I end up having a relationship to my higher self, or an alter self, and that's an area of then spiritual growth and insight and integration of some things that that one might struggle with. And I'd forgotten that, but that ego self, that inner polarity, as it were, which might have an external referent, or be part of, can be a spiritual thing as well. I just mention that because it's clearly a dynamic that that has informed me. And yes, it didn't come out in our small group sharing, and never has.
Thank you, Paul. That's really helpful. I'm quite nervous about the term higher self, and I'll tell you why. Because, of course, then it implies there's a lower self, that's sort of. But so the way that the creative mind, generative change, I think about things is that there are resource states, which include the generative state, the body-mind connected state, the state of selfness when you're connected with yourself, and there are also all the other resources, and I would include, the sort of resources that we talked about today, but I would also include your sense of your life calling, your sense of your psychological strengths, your strengths and your competencies, and also the vision for your life. So there's all the stuff that's taking you forward in life. And then, but the way I would talk about our emotions and our emotional difficulty is that it's archetypal forms that have yet to be processed into human form. So that the emotion of neediness is longing for connection. Well, longing for connection makes us human. Longing for connection is a great thing. So I can feel like, I'm really, I feel needy, which sounds pejorative, because I'm longing for love, because my parents were too busy to give me love. But actually that longing for human connection is great. And then, of course, also there's the archetypal form of that, which is that longing for the connection with the universe, longing for that connection, which, you can have it through, in religious form, all the different religions have a way of doing that, longing for oneness with the universe. But all of the difficult feelings are also resources that haven't yet been transformed, haven't been touched and brought into the human world. Anger is about setting a boundary, saying no to something, or saying no to something in your past. When we're doing healing work for the child with you that was wounded because your parent didn't give you attention, or they were abusive, or they ignore you, or you were invisible, or they didn't love you. Actually every little baby is lovable. We all know that cognitively, don't we? And so part of the healing process is to say to the baby that was you were, in slightly fiercely, you were lovable. You deserve love. The problem was your parents. The anger is a way of also setting a boundary and saying, that wasn't my problem. That was your problem. Because the child is that we just think our parents or the carers, they must be right. They're teaching us, and we learn all the good stuff from them, don't we? But we also learn all the bad stuff from them. And so if there's something wrong, it must be us. And then we have, we're unlovable, we have low self-esteem, we're incompetent, or we don't deserve to be visible, or whatever it happens to be. And actually, sometimes that fierceness says, actually, this is your stuff, not my stuff. I'm giving this back to you. So, anger has its place, or setting a boundary with someone, saying, actually, no, this is not appropriate behavior with me. You know, or fear. You know, there are some situations where it's worth being fearful. So if you were traumatized as a child, and then you've just got into the habit of being fearful of people, then you know, you've opened the, you know, you've turned the tap on for fear, but you don't know how to regulate that tap. So then you have to say, there were some things that happened in my childhood that caused fear. And it is worth in the world being aware of danger. That is a useful, important thing to be aware of, but we just don't need the tap turned on all the time. We need to have little indicators that say, you know, if I'm standing in the middle of the road and a bus comes, I probably should get out of the road. You know, if I'm walking past a pub and there are drunk people outside the pub, maybe I need to close the road. Fear is useful. It's just in the right quantity, the right amount. So I would say that every emotion is, but you could say, I just want to come back to your point about the higher self, which is that, you know, in the original self, you know, ego is really useful. So we don't want to be down on ego, because ego helps us, you know, navigate the world, you know where your front door is. You know, there's a me, you know, there's one place in which you know, in Buddhism, we talk about, you know, that the self is a construction, other people are construction, it's all one, you know, but if I don't know who I am, how am I going to find my front door? I need to know at a relative level, I need to know stuff. But at some fundamental level, you know, the essential self is beyond the human body, is existence itself. And not just as a theory, as an experience that you would have through doing non-dual meditation, basically. I mean, that's what we need to say about that. Just want to, before we close, just want to mention that the Life Talent Program Part 1 starts on the 25th of January, and that is the entry to the year-long program, which is, I'm not being very humble here, but it's my attempt, I'll say it's an attempt to create the most transformational personal development program in the world, personal transformation program in the world. I'll be saying more about that at various points in the future. I'll run a session on it, but it's very intense and very powerful, and it's great that it runs for a year. But part 1 is only 8 weeks, so it's not a big commitment. So I just wanted to mention that, and then also just to mention that for that next week's session is we're going to bring together awareness practice, relational practice, prayer practice, you know, relational meditation, and the psychological practice. That's next week's session. So we'll integrate the previous sessions, and then the session after we'll do the, you know, maybe this is one for you, Lyndon, you know, the short and dirty, the quick and sweet. I quite like the idea of calling a meditation quick and dirty. You know, it appeals to the more, you know, animal side of my nature, you know, but short and sweet is good too. So great to have you here, and yeah, just unmute for a second and just say how you're feeling right now.
Complete.
At peace.
You have to unmute, Lyndon, I think.
I said cheered.
Peaceful.
Snap.
Nice.
Curious. Yeah, feel connected.
Connected, also relieved and grateful.
Great.
Thankful to have such a great teacher like Julian is.
Truly connected.
Powerful.
Sorry, Maggie. nourished. Brilliant. Lovely to see you all, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Lots of love to you all. Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Julian, good night.
Love you, Jehan. Mwah.
Ciao, love you too. Thank you, love you.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Good to see you, Achim.